This is what we call Marcus Garvey Plaza. Large development that's mixed income. 80s. So, long story short, back in the 80s, when Ronald Reagan was president, HUD financed an affordable housing building here. It was a 3-story building. In the 80s and 90s, it had a pretty bad time. The guy defaulted. And Abyssinian Development Corporation, a faith-based non-profit developer, ended up getting the site for free and running it for a number of years. Abyssinian ended up, running it for a while. It included that building there. You see the other scaffolding on a 3-story building that ran the entire length of the site, and a parking lot in the back. In the early 2000s, Abyssinian ended up building a new apartment building on the parking lot, moving all the residents over, vacating that 3-story building. And right around that time, during the Bloomberg administration, they actually rezoned the site. So they rezoned 125th Street, which is a major thoroughfare. They included this site. So instead of a 3-story building, you could build a 20-story building. So again, nonprofit. They got it for free, basically, from a person who defaulted, and we were able to buy it for about $24 million. Pretty good deal for that nonprofit, right? Got an asset, managed it, got the folks who lived in it into a better facility, and we're able to sell it to a developer who we're not going to build it to get a return on our investment, right? So one of the issues when we first got in contract for the site was that although we could build all 20, HUD put a 40-year use restriction on the site that you could only do 100% affordable. Well, we're still in that 40-year period. So we ended up having to meet with HUD to get them to relax their restrictions so that it was 137 units in total that were on site. So we tried to strike a deal with them, saying, listen, how about we rebuild another 137 units and let us build some market rate units as well, so that we can capture some of the profit on site and justify the big asking price that the church is making for us, right? So a long negotiation with HUD. When that nonprofit bought the site, they also took a loan from the city and HPD. HPD also put some use restrictions on the site for the money that they gave that lasted 30 years. So we also had to meet with HPD to say, hey, let us build some more affordable housing, but also let us build some market rate construction that would help justify the purchase price that we'd have to buy the site for, right? Long negotiations. We had to meet with a council member. We did not love the idea of us building some market rate housing too. But long story short, the deal we ended up striking with them was that we would build 50-50. 50% of the units would be affordable, 50% of the units would be market rate construction. And that was the final deal that we struck. Met with the community board. They were beating us up in the community board. And especially if you're going to do a big project in New York City, one of the things that you have to grapple with is the fact that not everybody has the same interests that you have, right? Like the folks in that condo building, one of the guys at the community board was like, listen, I don't want you to block my views. I don't want this property to be a thing, right? Folks who live in those brownstones, they're like, listen, this is going to be noisy, all the commotion. I don't want that in my backyard, right? The residents of that affordable housing building over there, they're like, listen, this is going to be noisy for 2, 3, 4 years. I have no benefit in you building this building. So getting all those stakeholders to at least not hate your project. If you're lucky, they like your project, but at least not enough to stand up, vocally against your project. How can you motivate folks who don't have the same motivation? As a developer, is one of the things that you got to figure out, right? How can you get buy-in from different stakeholders with different positions, right? When we're meeting with our investors, they're motivated by what's our return on investment. But when you're negotiating with community board, how many affordable housing units are we creating, right? And that kind of delicate balance and the negotiation for the deal, right? So we ended up striking the deal with the community board. There was also complications with the zoning. So you see that apartment building over there with the other awning, with the other scaffolding up? They actually overbuilt it. It's actually built bigger than the allowed zoning. So the nonprofit owns this and that. So we actually couldn't build all 20 of our stories. There's this complication with the zoning. So we had to go to the community board. Hey, remember that really big building we wanted to build? We need your vocal support in us building it, which is very tough. Very, very, very tough. But ultimately, city planning saw the value of us creating more affordable housing. And although we didn't get a lot of love from the community board, we did reach out, we did make contact, we did get input. And ultimately, we got city planning to approve the project. So the project got approved. We could build a brand new building. We could build the full zoning ability here. And we're going to build 2 buildings. So the site, this long site, is actually 3 sites. So site A, which is a void over there, site B, where we're building first, and then site C, right? So site A is going to be an affordable building. Site B is going to be actually mixed income unit, because 30% are going to be at 130% of AMI. And then site C, we're going to make a small park over there, which hopefully will be something there in the future, right? Now, we get the site approved by city planning. Great. We're going to start, construction documents. We're meeting with the architects. We hired 2 architecture firms. So there's a small black architecture firm called Victor Body Lawson. It's about 7 or 8 blocks up from here. Victor's great. He teaches at Columbia. And then Fariba McCoy. I believe Fariba is the largest woman architect in the city, I believe. She's really active. She's great. So Fariba's designing the market rate building. Victor is designing the affordable building. And we had them work in tandem together. We had weekly meetings to work in tandem, because our idea was, for efficiency, let's build at the same time. So let's dig up the earth, do the foundation at one time, like while we have the contractors on site, get a little benefit of scale, and have foundations that tie together in the base, and then build 2 towers up. So that went pretty well. We got the plans approved. Got our demolition permit. So in New York, you have to get a demolition permit. So we started demolition on the building, the 3-story building. And then our contractor actually was being very messy about it. So we were getting complaints from the neighbors about all the mess that they were creating, and they just weren't engaging the community. And it was a big, big, big issue. We had to meet with the city council member. They actually called Gail Brewer. We had to meet with the borough president. She came herself to the meeting, which is surprising. But now I know Gail Brewer, so that's cool. So Gail came to the meeting and she said, listen, you guys got to do this, 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 and that in order for the community to not stand up against your project, right? So I created like a 10-point PowerPoint. We came up with a deadline and said, listen, we're going to do all these things. We're going to meet this deadline, but we need to get the project going. This is affordable housing. So we did that. We created that 10-point plan. We executed that plan, and we were able to continue the project. So right as we were starting demolition, we were evacuating all the kitchens and the refrigerators and the ovens and all the non-permanent stuff. So countertops, cabinets, so it was down to the raw concrete. We had to hire an environmental company to come in and do the lead and asbestos removal. It's an old building, so everybody built lead and asbestos back then. So we had that removed from the building, and then COVID starts. So we had to shut the job site down, slow down, neighbors are complaining, the dust and commotion. It was a mess. But we were able to continue on slowly. We were working at about 30% capacity once COVID started, because not only having people distant, but it was actually hard to get contractors to show up. Folks were getting sick. Folks didn't want to take the train to come to work. So it's kind of sort of only the guys and girls who could get in a car and come to the job site, especially last like March, April, May. It really was only people who could drive or ride together in collection. But we were able to make it through that, did the demolition, did the excavation work, and then started pouring the concrete in the basement. So we actually poured the basement for Site A and Site B. And then, you know, the market rate building is pretty straightforward. We have a Canadian family office named Rester Management, who's our joint venture partner. They one of the largest office landlords in Montreal. Actually, they're one of the largest in Toronto now too. Actually, so they got a Canadian bank to give us a loan to build a market rate building. The city, HPD, provides financing for affordable housing. They've been a bit slower now because of COVID. I mean, they were busy before COVID, but now that they have to do everything virtual, with less manpower, and less ability to meet in office, it's gone a bit slower. So we actually aren't able to start Site A yet. We're really hoping that we can start that next summer, hopefully, fingers crossed. So HPD did allow us to start the market rate building. So we were hoping to do it both at the same time. We're actually going to do this first, as you can see. So we got the construction loan, we're going vertical. We're really excited about it. I think we got probably till like next spring to make a final decision about going condos versus rentals. I'm 90% certain at this point we're probably going to do rentals. But the condo market in New York is doing pretty good. Especially in this price range, like the middle of the road. Like, you know, the Lamborghini price range on 57th Street is a little different, but the Mercedes price range of Harlem and you know, Williamsburg, like, it's actually still quite active, right? So as you can see, we finally gotten up. We finished the top level pouring concrete a couple weeks ago, and we're going to start closing it in with the windows shortly. Start doing the interior work, which is going to start getting fun. And then the hope is by next summer, you know, the end of next summer, we can start leasing, which is actually the best time to rent in New York City. It's in the summertime. Morning. So yeah, we're really hopeful that we'll hit that mark and be an exciting new building in the middle of Central Harlem, which is an exciting neighborhood. If you don't know, one block that way is the new Whole Foods in Harlem. It's also the 2-3 train, which is an express line to Midtown. 2 blocks that way is the A-B line, which runs express to Times Square as well. So excellent access to transportation, access to all the food and culture of Harlem. We're really excited about this thing finally getting going. It's been a lot of work. I did the first underwriting for this building in 2013. A lot of work. I did the first underwriting in 2013. The RFP went out, I think, in 2014. We won in 2016. We closed in 2017. At the end, it is in the opportunity zone too, by sheer luck. We were in contract when they passed the tax law in the end of 2017. So it's also an opportunity zone site. That's a little bit of excitement too. And yeah, we're building it now. COVID, of course, slowed us down a little bit, but the wheels are still turning. So we're really happy with the GC that we brought on board. They're based out of Brooklyn. They're doing a great job. Much better lines of communication than the original GCs we had, which is important, especially in neighborhoods like this one. They're really vocal about construction. They're actually quite sophisticated. Like the community board and the block association, like they hired a non-profit consultant to help them monitor us during construction to make sure what we're doing is not harmful to the neighborhood, it's not harmful to the community. So it's quite sophisticated. So we were joking about it, like really, like everybody on the team has to be on their A game. Because as soon as we slip up, they're like, hey, Gerard, you missed this. Hey, there's some trash out there. Hey, there's this. Like, everything's got to be tight. Everything's got to be in order. Which, you know, makes us sharper and makes the project better for not only us, but also for our neighbors. So, yeah, we're really excited about it. Any questions?
Sorry, I came here late, but I don't know if you mentioned.
Hey, Coach.
Was this like a historic district? Is that why you had to go through like all the extra consultation? Or was this like some regular process?
So it's not a historic district, like like the Village or something like that. It has a historic district.
Yeah.
It's not a historic district. The issue was that although we could build 20 stories, the let her get by. Let her get by. Although we could build 20 stories, the nonprofit owned a couple of lots. So when they built their building over there with the construction material on it, they actually built it higher than zoning allowed.
Wow.
So they actually used some of the zoning from this site.
Oh,
It was a nonprofit. It wasn't very organized. So we had to clean it up. We were in contract. We hadn't closed yet. So basically we got in contract, went through the whole city planning community board to approve us to use all of our zoning rights.
Because they took some of your area, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So it was what they call a minor modification.
Oh.
So like a ULURP is a full-on rezoning. A minor mod is like a slight amendment to the zoning.
Did you have to merge your zoning laws to capture the area?
So that's what they did.
Oh.
So they merged it and we had to separate them.
Oh, okay.
So when we separated them, they had more and we had less.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
That kind of sense.
New York City real estate. It's a little messy. And the funny part is the actual zoning laws that made our air rights less, they couldn't find it.
Oh.
So they're like, yeah, we know it changed and we know you got less, but we don't have paperwork of it. Just do the minor modification. And it was like, oh, it'll take you like 4 to 6 months. It took us like a year and a half. Yeah, it was hard. It was really hard. And a neighborhood that's very vocal too. They're very, very aware of developers doing projects. So they're there every step of the way, watching what you're doing, how you're doing it, are you doing it the right way, are you cutting corners? Because they don't want to, have a project that harms them.
Yeah, I can see why.
Huh?
Yeah, I can see why. They want to preserve their
Right.
quality of life.
Yes, quality of life, both for folks who rent, as for folks, these brownstones that own their home. The other crazy part that like nobody could have planned is because of COVID, everybody's working from home. So people are home all day. They're like, Gerard, it's so noisy, it's so loud. I'm like, it's a job site. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's gonna be loud for a couple hours. And because you hit water at about 20 feet underground, you start hitting water. So you have to do what they call piles. So these long concrete members that go like 100 feet down until you hit rock. So you gotta like cram them things down into the ground. Now luckily our engineers found a new quieter way to do it. So it wasn't nearly as noisy as it used to be. But yeah, like not only the piles, but the trucks that came in, people were saying their brownstones were shaking. So people are home, like working late. Gerard, it's 8 in the morning. My house is shaking. I'm like, it's a truck. It's New York City. What do you want me to do? The other big thing was rodents. So it was a vacant building for a long time. So there was like a rodent problem, right? So then when we started doing stuff, it like activated the area. So then other people started having rodent problems in the neighborhood. So we had to get a pest control company to then treat not only our site, but our neighbors. So that the new rodent activity didn't like enter their properties.
Was that factored into the soft cost? Or that was just like
No.
unexpected?
Nope. But that's why you have contingency.
Yeah.
But no idea. Our first community board meeting, 25% of the meeting was just talking about rodents. It was like, what are you gonna do to stop it? What can you do? And it's like, it's New York City, like they got all the road they need underneath here.
So the community, they anticipated that was going to be an issue.
Yeah, they were like, yo, we know it's a problem. Because when they built that building, that was a problem. When they renovated that building, it was a problem. They're like, it kicks them up, so they get active. And literally, there's a TD Bank around the corner, they were saying even they had the problem. Literally in the TD Bank. Because they're right over a subway station.
I laugh because I work right there in Chase on 119. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's right around the corner. Yeah. The TD Bank around the corner. They're like, yeah, it happened to us too. Like, yeah, like it's just, this is New York City. So they're like, hey, like, what are you gonna do about it? And it's like, okay, so we had a really good pest control company. He's great. A small mom and pop shop, but he's great. So now he serves not only our site, but he treats our surrounding neighbors. So all the brownstones behind us, he's treating their sites, blocking holes, putting out baits, treating their interior spaces to make sure their quality of life doesn't fall off too much. But, I was like, listen, guys, like, I can't stop rats in New York. I can't promise you that. But I'll try to help you stave them off as much as I can while we're doing this project. So, yeah, that was from the very first meeting, that was a problem they pointed out, and still to this day, it's something that we have to keep working because you can't eradicate them, right? I can't get rid of the subway lines a block away, right? Which is just everywhere. The best we can do is just kind of protect our space, stave them off, make it hard for them to enter our sites. It's the best thing we can do. So.
Are you going to reinvite us when it's done?
Yeah, for sure. My hope is next summer when we have like interior space, our office is gonna be up on the roof.
These two guys are ready to go in.
They ready?
They can go. They can go. You guys want to
They ready? They ready? They brought their hard hats.
I was going to bring mine too.
I can take those two in.
That's hilarious. No, the hope is next summer. I'm gonna do like a big like school thing at the building. I'm working on it. The short answer. And by next summer, we would have started the next one next door. So hopefully I can show like both phases, like completed project as well as the start of the next project. So yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal.
Did you secure your permanent loan yet?
Not yet. So you get the permanent loan. I mean, we're going to get the permanent loan from our same construction lenders.
Okay, I'm asking because you said that you can still choose between rental or condo. I'm assuming
Yeah.
when you get the permanent loan, you have to
Exactly. So the folks who gave us the construction loan are queued up to give us the permanent loan.
Okay, so you have the same lender.
Yeah. Although FHA financing isn't that hard, but yeah, we got them already queued up for when the project is done. But we got like a few more months to like, if we really want to go condo and things go amazing, we got a little bit of time. By the top of the year, we got to start getting countertops and cabinets. Then we kind of sort of have to start making decisions, right? We start picking like tile.
Are you gonna do the apartment, the finishes slightly different if you decide to go into rental or condo? Even though it's marketed as rental, like what would be the difference?
We could probably pay a little extra premium on materials if we're gonna do condos, especially for the ones way up. So the way we design the units, they're kind of flexible. So there's a couple of like really big units. If we do them for sale, especially on the corners, we can really do something really jazzy. Versus if we go rental, we might make a few more, 1 beds and 2 beds in that scenario.
And so let's say this building goes into condos. How do you evaluate the building? Do you look at the value separately of each apartment in a separate entity?
Yes. Because the second floor unit isn't going to sell us the same as the top floor unit.
So technically, we have a bigger value overall.
Typically, condo buildings are worth more. Typically. Now, there's a whole nother game too. If you build a whole rental building, there's people who will buy your rental building. There's a space for that too.
And so, what's your decision factor? Or like, what are you factoring into? Okay, I'm going to go into a rental. Or
The broker's bugging me about it now. They were giving them a tour another week or two. They're bugging us right now because they make more money if we do brokerage sales. So they're like, Gerard, you sure? I know it's amazing. It's kind of around the corner, flat off the shelves. I'm teasing. I know Molly's gonna see this, but no, it's We got some time. We got a little bit of time. And in particular, on the first floor, they're going to be duplexes.
Oh, nice.
So there's going to be about 6 direct entry units that are going to be quote unquote townhomes. So they're going to have a front and a backyard. So selling those should get like a significant premium. That you'll get like the brownstone benefits, but you get apartment building amenities. So they have access to the gym and the, you know. So in the basement, we're gonna have on the first floor, we're gonna have like a, you know, a common community space lounge that's gonna have access to the backyard as well. In the basement, we're definitely putting in a gym, a small sauna. I don't know how we do that, but a small sauna. Bike storage, and then we got 2 or 3 other rooms that like we're still kind of flex on what we're gonna do. And I've seen cool stuff like a pet bathing room. I've seen some that have like virtual golfing. Yeah, so that we got like 3 rooms that we got like a little bit of time to pull the trigger. And then on the rooftop, we're gonna have rooftop space too. So we're gonna have some that people can actually buy and have. And then we're gonna have some common rooftop space that everybody has access to.
If it's renters, would you rent it? Rooftop space?
Yeah.
If it's condos, we'll buy it.
And it's a premium for that. It basically becomes your like, you know, especially if you're some of the middle floor units, that becomes like your outdoor space. So people put like chairs and tables and plants and, you know, it becomes your kind of like little getaway. People pay for that premium in New York City. Yeah, people want balconies. Some miracle, we actually kept the balconies. I can't believe Ed let it stay in there, but
Oh, you have that.
so apartments, many apartments have balconies too, which is really cool. So lots of the apartments have at least a little bit of outdoor space. Yeah, but even on the corner ones, some of the corner ones, if you go look up about halfway, some of the corner ones have balconies. So those are gonna be cool. So you get a little bit of outdoor space. But the ones on the top are going to be like a 10 by 10 like little outdoor living room where you can like, you know, entertain friends, put up some tiki lights. We're going to have a gas line up there so you can cook, a wet bar so you can entertain folks. So it's the views up there.
Stop and shop. All in one building.
Yeah, all in one building, all in one building. So like it's, yeah, you know, it's New York, right? So you got to be competitive in what you're providing. So this project is going to be, it's going to be stellar. It's going to be stellar. We have Douglas Elliman as our broker on the project. So they got like a whole rollout they're working on how to make this the hotness as soon as we hit the street. Yeah.
Now you said that you're providing parking for the building as well, or no parking?
Yeah. So building A is going to have a parking lot.
Okay.
What do you charge for parking?
I haven't determined that yet. The way we're doing it is we're going to have stackers. So you can stack 3 at a time. So it's going to be like a 24-hour manned parking lot. It's going to be a guy that's there. You bring your car, he takes it down.
Specifically for the residents or for like for revenue?
For residents.
Okay.
We're going to have some additional parking lot over here too.
Initially.
Yeah, initially.
Is there parking requirements in New York City?
If you're doing affordable housing, no. If you're doing market rate housing, yes. So we have some that we need. So to Coach's point, we're gonna put some here too until we decide what this thing is. And then in building A, there's gonna be parking as well. Oh, in building A, we're also gonna, on the top floor, we're gonna have not only a little bit of office space, but community space too. So the community board will hopefully in the future have their monthly meetings there. Giving something back to the neighborhood. We got studios, 1, 2, 3s, and a few 4s. And if we go condos, some of those 4s are going to be duplexes. For sure.
And the 4s are the duplex on the first level.
And the 4s are in the duplex, yeah, as well. Yep. And then they have the first floor, the second floor, and they also have a basement. And as a matter of fact, their basement spaces are freaking huge. Their basement space goes all the way back. So, lots and lots of square feet for those folks. Especially people doing home office now. You have like a whole setup.
What would be the square feet for the 4 bedrooms? Approximately.
Like 1,300, 1,400.
And then for 1 bedroom?
We're at like 500, 600 on average. It's New York.
Are there challenges if you do condos with an affordable housing mix involved? Does that change anything for the city?
No. It's the short answer. I think Harlem has seen that over time that it blends out. So there's buildings that were built in 2007, 8, 9, 10 that have all kind of had their legacy time now, that we've seen that it actually blends out. And for those lucky ones that get into those buildings, they get to enjoy the benefits of that building. So it's actually worked out. Yeah. And if you got, it's actually also just a certain type of buyer. It's like in Williamsburg, if there's a certain type of buyer, like they know there's going to be noise and commotion.
I meant more in terms of like selling individual units.
Yeah. Related to that, they know there's going to be, you know, there's going to be stuff. There's going to be loud young people. If you don't want that, you wouldn't buy in Harlem. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't buy it anyway. It's just a certain type of buyer. Like, you wouldn't buy a condo in the Village if, like, you didn't want some bit of chaos around. Like, that's just the deal. Right? You buy in Westchester or something. Long Island. You know what I'm saying? It's just a certain type. Like, in, you know, I said Williamsburg. Like, in Williamsburg, the people that spend that kind of money, you're just a certain type of buyer, a certain type of renter. Younger, more creative, class, less families. Although there's more and more families, part of 4 bedrooms being a premium in New York City is that there's so few of them. So for the few people that want to raise their family in the city, it's actually not a lot of options. So there's kind of a price premium for 4 bedroom units across Manhattan, including Harlem.
Is there good schools nearby?
Yeah, especially working from home. It's like, no, I need the space. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of school zones. But yeah, like, people pay for that space. Like, I need that space. I need my kids, and for whatever reason, I want to be close. There's not a lot of options. Yeah. Question. The school's everywhere. My kids' school is like 3 blocks that way. There's a school a block away from here this way. The school's all over. There's a college right there. Another college a block over. Lots and lots of schools. Yeah, they're hyper over here. Oh yeah, they don't play. They don't play. Central Park starts at 110th Street. So yeah, like 13 blocks that way. Morningside Park is 2.5 blocks that way. St. Nick that way. Marcus Garvey Park is another 2 blocks that way. Yeah.
That's why they have the condo, right? A high-rise condo.
Yeah, 5th on the park. So that's one of those legacy ones that was built like 2005, 6, 7. I actually met the pastor of the church next door. The church, I guess, sold air rights to that developer, apparently, to build that project. That's a very cool project.
A buddy of mine is a builder, so I have him take me around. I was surprised to see how beautiful the ground floor is inside.
Oh, they're amazing. They're just as good as... So, the reason I know that is because we went and looked at, when we were starting the design with the architects, we went to Brooklyn to look at some of the downtown condos and rentals and see finish qualities. It's just as good as the buildings in Harlem, Upper West Side, downtown Brooklyn. No difference.
I was in shock. I was like, this is Harlem?
It's no difference, literally. It's literally no difference. We're using the same interior designers, the same brokerage firms. There's no difference in quality.
And they work. I had a client come in.
Yeah.
From ground floor?
Yeah, it's not a game. It's not a game.
That's what I can appreciate. And then it's the one like, wow.
Yeah. Dapper Dan's brownstone's a couple blocks away. Maya Angelou, before she passed, her brownstone's a block and a half that way. Yeah, it's good history here. I guess Neil Patrick's selling his for like some crazy number, like 7 million or something. So, any other questions?
Yeah, I missed that part, sorry, but was it one whole side?
Yeah.
Separate side? Like,
So literally touching that wall all the way to the end was a 3-story building that ran the full length. It had 137 units. Yeah.
find that much footprint.
That's what's so exciting about
One
it.
side.
That's what's so exciting about it. You have no idea how many developers, big developers, like, hey, we want to come in too. Like, because it's like rare to get such a big
Location.
canvas.
You can't find.
It's rare. It's crazy rare. In neighborhoods like this, like there's very few pieces of land that's available to even do like a big significant project. Like literally, we've been with, you know, Gotham, Goldman, like you name it. There's not a lot of land for them to do something big and significant. Like you see, Goldman just is doing a big one with Meredith and Jamaica. Because Jamaica has a lot more land, they have a lot more space to like do something big and significant. So 3-story building, 137 units. So now we're gonna do, we divided into 3 sites. So the first site, the affordable building is gonna have 187 units. This one's gonna have 137 units. And then we'll possibly do a future phase after these first 2 are done.
Those units have bigger square.
Smaller. So affordable units have a smaller square foot requirement. So we're actually going to have more affordable. We're going to have more than 50%. It's going to be closer to like 61, 62% affordable units. Versus the rentals, we're going to have bigger ones. We're going to have more 3s and big 4s, right? They're going to pay more. Versus an affordable building, no matter what, a 1-bed is a 1-bed, a 2-bed is a 2-bed.
Yeah.
We can't just charge whatever we want. Versus in a market rate building, yeah, if you're on the corner and you have a big living room, we could charge you more for your 2-bedroom. So that's why.
Do you have any temporary plans for this site? Like, you know, building like a temporary gardens, green space?
Yeah. So this is gonna be a garden.
No.
We have a garden, a little bit of parking too, but we're gonna have a garden over there. Some of the brownstone is over there. They say, hey, so can we get like a gate door? Like a door onto the garden. They're like, come on, guys, walk around like everybody else.
It's a horse landscape. It's a horse landscape. You have a garden, so why not? It's like Gramercy Park.
Yeah, exactly like Gramercy Park. Yep. So, yeah, I mean,
That would be nice to love though.
huh?
That would be nice to love.
It will be.
But it's just too much. You already have it.
Literally, not to beat him up, but literally the guy back there, we had met in his brownstone 5 years ago now, and he was like, you have to build it so big. And I was like, dude, like, we're buying it. Like, they're not giving us a discount to build a smaller building for you. He's like, but you're gonna block my garden. And I was like, dude, we're in the middle of a housing crisis. Like, I will gladly stand in the community board and debate with you about protecting your community garden versus creating more housing. Right? I was like, I'll fight that fight with you at the community board. It's like, come on, dude, you live in Manhattan. Construction's gonna happen. You can move to Jersey or something. Right? You're in an urban core place. There are big buildings around you, dude. Like, he's like, yeah, can you just build a little smaller? Like, nah, man, they charge us full price. We gotta get a return on investment. So,
What was here before?
it's funny, on the other side of this block, they're all retail. So this is 125th Street, which is one of the busiest retail strips in the city.
Oh, because this building goes all.
Yeah, it goes all the way through. So they literally don't even use their back half. figure that out one day. I see where you're going. I see where you're going. We'll figure it out one day. But yeah, because most of these folks have had these buildings for forever, so they don't even use this back half. Because 125th Street makes enough revenue just because it's a very busy thoroughfare. Like when they built the Rite Aid, it was one of the highest grossing Rite Aids in the country. When they built the Pathmark, it was one of the highest grossing Pathmarks in the country. Yeah, the amount of people that come through here, the sneaker sales on the street is just like off the charts. I mean, I guess sneakers is a little easier to buy them online now. But like before, like the online sales stuff really took off, like people came here to get exclusive sneakers that you can't get other place. Spend the night outside. And I remember one kid said that to me. I was like, yeah, that's crazy. And the guy was like, no, like, if you stay out all night and pick up those spare Yeezys, as soon as you spend $200, you walk out of the door, there's somebody willing to pay you $400. And if you wait till you get home, somebody's going to pay you $1,200.
I'm still not waiting.
I'm not doing it. But I get it. If you're a young person, like, all right, there's some economics there. There's some economics there. Anyway, questions? Any more questions? No?
This is just a residential development, no mixed-use or anything?
Yeah, so this strip is actually only residential. Good question. So we cannot put commercial on the first floor. We are going to have some community facility space. So in building A on the first floor, we're going to have a nonprofit come in. Actually, thank you for asking me that. It's going to be the first LGBTQ center in Harlem. So we're going to bring them in on the first floor in building A. So we're really, really excited about that. It's going to be a very big deal.
Don't they have one?
They have an organization. I don't know if they have dedicated space. At least when we started this project, they did not have dedicated space. But yeah, it's going to be here at our building. It's going to be solid. We're really, really excited about it. And then we're going to have like another 2,000 or 3,000 square foot for another nonprofit on the first floor, and then a little bit on the rooftop. Huh? The cost of total development is about $80 million.
What are you expecting as a return?
Of this building, actually. Good question. That's only one building.
What's your hard cost?
Our hard costs, we're still penciling at $350. So far, the GCs have been pretty solid, although there have been a couple things that have popped up. You know, when we started construction here, they changed the license agreement laws at DOB. So any project you build in New York City, if you're touching a neighboring site, they have to give you a license agreement if you need to put awning over their property for any reason. So, for all these folks, we had to get license agreements. So that was really sticky. So that was not in the original budget. It's what you need contingencies for. So for each one of these folks, and then there's now lawyers that like this is their business now, of gaming developers around the city. So we got an email from a big nasty lawyer like, I represent any of the brownstones of the block, and you got to meet with us. So we brought in a family office based out of Canada. They're third generation, about to be fourth generation now. Over 100 years of doing real estate investing. So they came in and invested with us as investors together, partners. And then they brought a Canadian bank to invest with us. Because they're so big, banks want to give them money. So, yeah, you know, so like they get better terms than a smaller developer can get. So it was a good life lesson.
Such a very small capital structure.
It's a rather
Very small group.
Who?
Your two partners.
Yeah, we're small. Super small. Carthage is very small. Most developers in the city are not super big, actually. I'd say even L&M, if you go in their office, there's like 10 people that do real estate finance for development. There's like a couple project managers. There's there's lots of other people that do like site super, property manager, asset manager, all these.
In like financing.
Yeah.
It's a costly project, but in the end, you're not you're just two partners putting
Right.
in the thing. Right?
Exactly.
On
There's
the other
general.
side, I would assume you would have maybe have one other like commitment guy who would have
Well, that's also why you have strategic partners who can help you for whatever reason. Like it just happened in this case, we're local, so we can help with the community engagement stuff. Let her get by there. They have more money and more access, but they're not local. So strategically, it worked out. We're doing another one on 116th Street eventually, where we brought in a builder to be our partner. So he knows construction more than we do. So we're good strategic partners. We both have done similar type projects, so we can kind of peek over each other's shoulder.
We visited a project like that where the developer has a sub-company that is a DC, so they hire their own sub-company.
Yeah, developers do it all the time.
The double problem.
I'd say the best developers in the city also do construction because they can control that line item.
Get paid for construction. I mean,
Yeah, they don't have to like really make money on the construction. They can do it pretty lean, which leaves money on the table, profit for the development side. And going into projects, they're a bit competitive too. Whereas if you're a developer, you got to rely on somebody else. May eat up a lot of the profits. So we actually like to do the contractors as partners.
did you raise a lot of equity for it?
Yeah. It's funny. I can't tell you the exact number because this is going to be recorded and distributed. But
I can pause it. I'll pause it.
again, the total product is like 80 million. You need about 20% equity, roughly. That's in the first building. Roughly. Any other questions?
Any other kind of surprises or unplanned events you had since you started construction that kind of was like, damn, I didn't think about that.
The license agreement was huge. Like that, like, was massive. And I think personally, across the city, they purposely did that to slow down development. I personally believe that. That it's just harder, more expensive. I think they did it on purpose. Just like they changed like a law on brokerage last year. I think they did it purposely to slow down as many people getting into brokerage.
But it's counterproductive with the idea of bringing more housing to the city. You would have a pure mixed project,
You're
with a lot of
being
retail.
logical.
You'd be like, okay, maybe.
You're being logical.
Yeah.
Yes.
Logic doesn't.
Hurting developers is not going to be a positive thing for housing supply. But not everybody thinks logically that way. They're like, we got to get those developers. They're charging us all this rent. So, yeah. Another, huh? Oh yeah, I was about to get to that. So, when we were doing the demolition, Tosi was around for that. When we were doing the demolition, people were concerned that the dust from letting asbestos was getting out to the air. So they hired a nonprofit consultant, I think pro bono, this group called WEAC, which is a local organization that basically does environmental justice to make sure developers specifically aren't harming the neighborhood. So they came in and required us to put in dust meters to measure the dust in the air. And to change our demolition protocol. So then when we took the dusty material out of the building, we had to hose it down with water cannon so that it wouldn't get dusty while I was on the ground. And then, which made it harder to take it out of here because now you like double the weight of the material by drenching it in water, which made the demolition cost go up. Yeah, it was a mess. It was a mess. And then, so you see this netting up on the side of the building? So we actually had to do that for that building because we complained about the net. And we actually do it, you can't see it right here, but right behind us, the other apartment building.
Yeah, you have to do it.
It costs us like $250,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then the cost of if something fall and breaks inside the apartment of the other person.
Yeah, it was a problem. It was a big problem. It's a very, very, very big problem.
Common for the scaffolding.
Huh?
That netting is not common for the scaffolding.
Lots of people do it now. But 3 or 4 years ago, no. Not everybody puts netting on the outside of your scaffolding. Yeah. Yeah. It's not super duper common, no. So, and before we put our building up, in order for us to keep going, because they shut the project down, we had to come up with a plan to protect them from the dust, the lead and asbestos. We had to protect them. So they brought in WEAG. Again, they brought in the city council. It was a whole big sticky thing. We met at the state office building around the corner. So Brian Benjamin, who's now lieutenant governor, he was our senator. So we met at his office around the corner, and like met at a big conference table before COVID. Met at a big conference table, and like came up with a game plan for them to let us continue doing the project. So yeah, the netting cost us about $250,000. That was not in the budget at all. Who would have thought that? Yeah, so our next project, it'll be a line item. License agreements and dust protection of neighbors. Whether we like to do it or not, we need to at least allocate money for it, the project. Yeah. Any other questions?
Do we get to go in?
For those who have hard toe shoes, Posey, you think I could get like 5 or 6 folks in? Some of you have on sneakers. Or see how many hats you have, Posey.
I have one extra in my car.
You got an extra one?
I'll use it. Give me one. Extra graphite.
Oh yeah, one other
It's
question.
bright orange.
Do you have any
Any more questions before we stop the video?
one that's really
All right.